decided to do ours on was like what cancer, like just a malignant cell itself, like how does that actually kill you? And we decided to research like what actually about cancer kills you. And it was not at all what I expected. It's completely different. What it actually is the cancer cell itself is not harmful. It's more the fact that the side effects around it more takes over space of the healthy cells. I had like an analogy. It's like if your cells were just multiplying into rocks instead of healthy cells, it would just fill your body up with rocks. So if you had like a healthy heart and like it was just slowly turning into stone, it wouldn't, the stone's just sitting there, it's not going to kill you, it's stone, but it's not going to help you function as a human being either. And that's one way it can kill you, is just by just taking over. And another way is it can, the example I found was lungs, where it can collapse part of your lung, and the collapsed part can actually fill with an infection or pus or gross things like that, and that can kill you, just the infection from that. And then another way, which is what more Jackie covered, was chemotherapy itself can be ridiculously dangerous.
And when I was researching like chemotherapy and chemo complications, I found just someone online said it was a cosmic kick in the pants, because chemotherapy itself, the cure for cancer, can actually lead to cancer and very hazardous health problems. So I thought that was funny. Someone called it a cosmic kick in the pants. And if chemotherapy doesn't work, then you have to resort to transplants, and that can lead to graft versus host disease, which is complications of chemo. If chemo doesn't work, then you get more diseases and ailments. And if you think about it, like this, I read an article about a mom who had cancer right after she had given birth, and the first doctor gave her 6 months to live. The second and third said chemotherapy would buy her time, and she shouldn't operate, but the fourth offered to operate. And like the thought is, like, you have all these choices, and one doctor's telling you this, one doctor's telling you that. So it's a very stressful time when you're trying to figure out what you want to do, what's going on. And like stress doesn't help you heal at all. Stress like makes you more sick sometimes. If you're all stressed out, you can't really get better. So then we just have a whole bunch of lists of things like infertility, leukemia, kidney disease, hearing loss, and lung disease. What?
Hearing loss?
Yeah. Chemotherapy causes hearing loss. And lots of other more things. It's very tragic. And this is another thing I found offline, is the tragic bottom line is about 2/3 of childhood cancer survivors experience at least one late health effect of treatment, and for more than 1/4 of survivors, it's severe. And that's like, so you had childhood cancer and then you survive it. 2/3 of that group that survived cancer will then develop a health hazard because of that. And so you get cancer and you survive, but then you still have to be so very careful because you have all of this extra stuff going on. And so I just thought that was another complication. You're never really cured. We have some just kind of interesting statistics. There was 11 million cancer survivors, was a statistic, and 27,000 of them were children. And I found something to the effect that if you have a female that has had breast cancer, survived it with chemotherapy, 1 in 20 of them will develop AML leukemia, which is very bad, and that's just tragic. 1 in 20, that's very bad. And without the side effects of chemotherapy, childhood cancer has about an 80% cure rate, which that's something kind of positive. I mean, chemotherapy does help most of the time. And you have, if you've had childhood cancer and chemotherapy, you have have a 5 to 10 times greater risk of developing heart disease. And heart disease is our #1 killer, next to cancer and chemotherapy. So that's kind of scary, like, I don't know, just another system. And when I was researching, Walters helped me come upon this, that like, if you die of cancer, which you're not actually ending up dying of cancer, but because of all the cells and stuff, if you die of that cancer untreated, it's very, very painful. And then if you end up getting chemotherapy and it helps you live a little bit longer and you ended up having more of your life lived out, like the example with females that had breast cancer and then they survived that and they ended up getting AML, they still had longer times than if they didn't have chemotherapy. And I don't know if you guys are interested, I found a source that has a bunch of references to what happens when you actually die of cancer untreated. It's kind of gruesome, but
We got cut down by 5 minutes now, so.
okay.
It's there. Another thing, when I was talking about how certain cancers, like, they don't actually kill you, it all depends on anything else. The difference, I was starting to think about the difference between, like, you hear about tumors, there's malignant tumors and benign tumors. So the difference is the malignant ones are the ones that are aggressive, they are the ones that are going to kill you if left untreated. Like, if you hear about brain tumors, for example, you can just hear, like, some people, they have a brain tumor and there's nothing they can do, it can't be operated on, but it's malignant. And there's people who, they have benign ones, they can just be left there and it won't actually harm them. One of the biggest dangers and things like that is surgery on brain tumors. What? Surgery on brain tumors can actually become just as dangerous as the cancer itself. So if a doctor makes a mistake in whether or not a tumor is malignant or benign, it can be a huge life or death thing. It can be potentially fatal.
And then we emailed our sources.
Yeah, we
to
kept like
this
emailing it back and forth, and slides got lost in transition.
Yeah, so our sources are sent to an email in APA. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be looking for those.
Do you guys have questions? Do you have time for questions?
Yeah, we have 2 minutes.
Okay.
I have one. So with chemotherapy being so deadly, are there more effective methods or any alternatives to chemo that are just as effective but aren't as harmful?
There's
Well,
mostly just surgery and chemotherapy. Those are the
Yeah.
two.
And the only real risk, like if you have like cancer and it's destroying your you can have bone marrow transplant, that's for leukemia. And then the only risk for that would be like the graft versus host disease, where like your body rejects it. So that's the only risk for transplants and that kind of thing.
There's lots of things they're trying to develop, but nothing's proven yet. It's more a matter of whether so far what we've discovered, there's only things that help a little bit. There's nothing that really helps so much as chemotherapy, which is why people are willing to put up with the trade-off of potential other illnesses down the road. Anyone else? Evan.
What are the chances of surviving after chemo? Like after you have it, is there like
1 minute.
a chance that you might die earlier than just with like if you just had cancer and you're doing it?
Chemotherapy is mostly, it buys you time if it doesn't kill you.
Yeah, and it just all really depends, because like the only statistic I could find in that sense would be like if you've had breast cancer, then you have a 1 in 20 chance of getting AML, and that's not really like, it just depends.
Nothing's
You don't,
really
like
set in
a
stone.
percentage of if you have chemotherapy, then you're gonna. Just depends what kind of cancer.
Nettie, did you have one real quick?
Oh, I was gonna say, is radiation worse than better than
I can hear you.
is radiation, like, is that like the same?
Chemo is radiation.
We didn't really look that much into radiation. We found like the statistics of like radiation giving you cancer.
Yeah.
So we just
I know. basically none of
Time.
the options are good. Okay.
Let's go.